Hello, moon babies. How are you? It's Molly. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this art witchy, frequently asked question session. We're gonna try to mix up the format a little bit for you today, so I hope you enjoy that. I wanted to be able to offer you a little resource for the questions I get about working in your grimoire particularly, but some other art magic bits, process-oriented questions that you have, and I thought maybe I could kind of collect them all into one little, hopefully useful video for you. So let's get into it. I get lots of questions about how to deal with sticky pages in your mixed media grimoire or your mixed media magical diary. So pages that are like sticking together or get fused together. We don't love that. So there's a couple ways that you can navigate sticky pages. The first is to sort of mitigate the amount of Mod Podge you're using, because Mod Podge is essentially just liquid plastic. So if it isn't completely and thoroughly dry, it will fuse together. So that's one way just to look at the materials you're working with. If your stickiness is an acrylic paint problem, because that's the same deal, acrylic paint is just liquid plastic, right? And they'll bond together. You can deal with that by a little bit of a fixative spray. So you can get a fixative spray in a shiny coat. You can get a matte fixative spray, and you can also get what's called a workable fixative spray if you're working with lots of different materials, like if you want to work with oil pastels or chalks or other things on top of your painting, you'll want to use a workable fixative spray. Another way that you can deal with sticky journal pages is to lightly dust the surface with a little bit of baby powder or cornstarch and work over the top of it with a dry brush. So just make sure that when you do this, your work is very, very, very dry, or you'll cause problems for yourself. So you can also deal with a sticky page with a soft brush and a little bit of cornstarch. If you'd like to use less Mod Podge for your mixed media work, like if you're really into collaging and you end up having these really stiff, sticky pages, I would also suggest, instead of Mod Podge, use a spray adhesive to adhere your pieces. This is going to help keep things from like building up too much and getting crunchy, and hopefully assist you in negating the sticky page. The sticky page. Do I need to use gesso? How much gesso do I use? What kind of gesso do I get? Do I need to gesso? What is gesso? Moon babies are dying to know about gesso. Gesso is a chalky white paint that's used to prime and prep a surface for other materials. So you can paint gesso onto paper, cardboard, any kind of board you might be using, cardstock, wood. There are lots of applications for gesso. And beyond simply preparing a surface to take paint, we can also use gesso to add texture. You can use something like a palette knife or like an old expired credit card to smear gesso onto a surface to give you lots of texture and help you build up a surface for painting. Now, gesso is one option for priming a work surface. You have lots of options, and gesso may not always be the most appropriate choice, and I'll tell you why. So if you don't like real wrinkly pages in your book, that's a problem for you. Some people love them. I kind of like them. I love the sound they make when they flip, but some people do not want a wrinkly page, and we get wrinkly pages because we're using materials that have a high water content, right? They're soaking into the paper and making them buckle. So if you don't want that to happen, but you still want to prime a surface, something like a page in your found grimoire book or a playing card that you're going to make into an oracle deck, you can use a product. There is clear gesso available. My personal favorite is to use just a flat white or black spray paint. That's another great low water content way to prime your page and keep that buckling from happening. Let's talk about painted statuary. Lots of you have questions about repurposing statuary. So when I say that, I mean finding figurines or knickknacks or sculptures and transforming them through paint into something that you're going to use on your altar or your sacred space. So I think this is such a wonderful form of art magic, and you have lots of questions about it. So I have a couple little tips for you. Number one, if you want a really fabbity fab painted found sculpture, prime it. Make sure that you prime it. So I like to use a flat spray paint to coat the entire work surface, especially if it's something like a plastic or resin knickknack. You really need something to help that paint attach to and go on all smoothie and silky and beautiful. Number two, after you've primed your sculpture or your statue or your knickknack, I use liquid acrylics, so just like regular old poster paints. And the reason I use liquid acrylic versus the kind that come in a tube that have a lot of body is because I can work in very smooth layers and it doesn't show your brush strokes. So if that's something that's important to you, I would recommend using a liquid acrylic and work in layers. And I know working in layers can be kind of frustrating, and this is where your friend, the hairdryer, comes in. Lots of layers, dry in between. And for adding baubles and accoutrement to your statue, I would also recommend using a craft cement instead of a hot glue. And the reason for that is hot glue needs a porous surface to grab onto. And if you're working on something like plastic or ceramic, it's not gonna hold on. You're gonna have parts falling off pretty quickly. So I would recommend using a craft cement. It may take longer to dry. Absolutely worth it. Go with the craft cement for your statuary. I feel this. There are so many tutorials out there about how to create layers or make beautiful art journal pages, and you need 900 supplies and tons of dry time. And I gotta be honest with you, I am a very lazy art witch, moon babies. I want maximum impact with minimum amount of stuff. So here are just a few little taster ideas for making really, really easy peasy high impact layers. I've got them written down here. That's why I'm looking down. Number one, I just like to use plain old markers on top of acrylic. If you use acrylic paint in an interesting texture, or you scrape it with a card, or you dry brush it, or play with your fingers in there, it creates an interesting surface to begin with. You have the paint, you have what's popping through underneath, and then you can doodle loosely or do your writing on top of it. Beautiful. Number two is colored tissue paper or gift wrap. Skip the Mod Podge, attach it, adhere it with a spray adhesive. I love this because there's no dry time. You can layer up lots of different papers without really bulking up and bringing all that kind of like liquid plastic in. So gift wrap and tissue paper with a spray adhesive. Easy layer. Just doodling over the top of something that you've already painted or drawn with a contrasting pen or paint marker will really make the page pop. I'm a big fan of printmaking, So either creating your own little lino cut stamps or styrofoam tray stamps, using stamps that you get from the store or you thrift. I love shopping thrift stores for funky stamps. But stamps are a really easy and versatile way that you can add a lot of texture and interest and make beautiful pages really, really simply. I'm also a really big fan of using stencils to create interesting layers. You can buy cool, funky stencils from the craft store. You can print patterns out online to cut out your own stencils. I love getting into a piece of cardboard and cutting out shapes and words with an X-Acto knife. You can use paper plates to make stencils. You can use old cereal boxes to make stencils. And what's great about them is the effort that you put into making a stencil. You can use it again and again and again. And if you use it with different colors or different materials, it's different every time. So they're a really versatile tool and really provide a lot of high impact without building up a lot of bulk, and you don't need a ton of supplies. So we're gonna wrap up with a question I get often, both through email or in workshops that we do together. It's, do I work intuitively? How do I know how to make it look right? Do you use the rules of composition when you work? I absolutely do. But here's the thing. When you are familiar with the guidelines of composition, they become second nature. So you instinctively know how to use them. You're not thinking about it. You're not calculating it. It just sort of comes out of you like any other skill that you would practice. So if you are concerned that knowing how to make something look good has to do with some kind of super artist secret, or it's just about talent, it's not. They are guidelines. Composition is a collection of guidelines that you can learn, yay! And you can absolutely rock your grimoire or any other art magic project you have with just a little taster of the most basic composition knowledge. You do not need to go to art school to be a composition master. All you have to do is take notice and practice. I go in depth into this idea on a blog post that I put together for you that includes a principle. So there's a cheat sheet there that will help you make gorgeous composition choices for your grimoire every single freaking time, and make pages that surprise you and that you love. So you can find that with a link in the down bar. Go visit the blog, grab it, get that printout, and while you're over there, if you feel so inclined as to sign up for the mailing list, I've been having a lot of fun sending out videos and zines and additional printables for you on the Moonbaby mailing list. I want to thank you so much for being here, Moonbabies. I really, really hope that you enjoyed this sort of Art Witchy FAQ mashup video. I'd like to be able to do more of these for you in the future. I really, really, really hope that you found some of this information helpful and that it helps you kind of bust through some of those creative blocks and really stir up some magic in your books and in your life. And if you have any questions that you would like to see answered in a video like this, pop them in the comments. I'd be happy to share any information I have with you. And until we speak again, Moonbabies, witch on, witch boldly, and be well.